How are we doing, everyone, and welcome to Talking to Mod. Today is our 10th episode, and I am buzzing because today is a very, very good friend of mine. I want to thank all the guests that we've had in the past, and let me tell you now, we have got some fantastic names lined up coming up soon, so strap yourselves in, you don't want to miss it. But today, we have Russell Hastings, who is the front man in From the Jam. Lovely guy, really good friend of mine. Shall we find out more about him? I think we should. Ladies and gentlemen, strap yourselves in, sit back, relax, and enjoy episode 10 of Talking to Mod with Russell Hastings. How are you, Russell?
I'm good. Now we've got you. Now, are you there? Am I upside down?
Are you in Australia? You're upside down.
Am I? You are. You're on. You're sideways. What about that?
There we are.
Now let me do it better than that. Let's have a look at that. How's that?
That's brilliant, mate. Magic, as some would say.
Let me do this. Let me just get a bit inventive here. 1 second. Get the old tripod.
Stop it.
This. Watch this. How's that?
Couldn't ask for better, mate.
All right. Great.
How are you, mate? You well?
Yeah, I'm really good. Good. Yeah, I am. Now I'm better now the sun's out. I'm a sun person, so yeah, good.
Mate, you got the shorts on and everything. I mean, I'm looking outside at the moment in Belfast. I'm thinking I'm going to have to put my rain jacket on in a minute.
It's your fault for living out there, isn't it?
You weren't the first person who said that, mate, I tell you. So, Russell, first of all, mate, thank you very much for joining me on this, mate. It's the 10th episode today, so it's been going really well, and I appreciate your time, mate. I really do.
Okay, cool.
So what I want to know is, how did you first get into music, mate?
From a very young age, I was 4 years of age. My first memory is getting my mum to go and buy a single called Oh Bloody Oh Bloody by the Beatles, 1969. And I was 4, so I was, I'm a 65 baby, so I was 4. And unusually, I mean, it's unusual these days, but it wasn't so much unusual in those days, but we were all into music, really. And records and I just take the charts in the early 70s and the mid 70s, and then my brother, really, which was great because my brother's 4 years older than me, and he came home with the Stranglers album. He came home with Nevermind the Bollocks first, and I remember listening to Peaches around 76, late 76, and then he cut, and Nevermind the Bollocks as well, thinking this is pretty fucking good. This is what I like, because it was so different. And then the Pistols, really. I mean, a lot of people cite that, but that was a time for me. The Pistols was and everybody around me, all the kids at school. We're talking. What was I? I was 11 and 12 when the Pistols were sort of at their height. But I was into it. It felt like I was 18, to be honest. But yeah, so that's my memory, and my memory of music is that I've always been into it ever since I can remember.
Similar to me, to be fair, mate. I mean, you know that, but I will be testing your memory with some of these questions.
I'm fucking good, I'll tell you. Yeah.
Do you remember the first time we met? What about that one?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, Brighton, Concord 2.
Was that when I went through the dressing room?
Yeah.
Yeah. God.
Yeah.
Good job. Them days are in the past now, eh?
Yeah. Well, it's all right. We've all got a journey, haven't we?
Yeah, we certainly have, mate. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But again, music's played a big part in your life, same as it has mine, mate. You mentioned a little bit about what you were listening to. What about? Do you remember the first time you actually went to a live gig?
Yeah, I do. In fact, my first live gig would have been somewhere like Pontins in 1973, honestly, I sat at the side of the stage, and I used to watch them with a curly lead. I'm recalling it now as I'm telling you. Drummer there, I remember the sound of the drums, how crisp the drums were. Curly lead on the guitar amps and the guitars, and I thought I want to do that. And then there was a youth club across the road from me, and all the bands, like young bands, and I guess they would have been in their late teens, used to come and rehearse there. And so we used to go over to the youth club and look through the windows and watch them, and there's a few people that I recall being in there. And so I was, you know, I was curious from day one, really. And that's, you know, I was really impressionable around that age, and that's what I wanted to do. You know, I looked at all the amps, all the Marshall amps that were around at the time, and the guitars, you know, and used to talk to the bands when they come in and out. So again, you know, I just was, you know, I lived it from a very young age. Yeah.
And I take it you're also at a very young age when you bought your first instrument, which is probably a guitar, was it?
It was, yeah. I learned it. I picked up the guitar when I was about 7, but nothing happened really, apart from getting sore fingers. But then I think I got my first guitar when I was 12, and then my mum paid for 3 lessons, guitar lessons, for a birthday present, which was the best money ever spent. And there was a wonderful guy called Brian Cornwall, and his sister was the famous actress Judy Cornwall, who was in Hyacinth for the program in the 90s. And they used to look fucking identical. And it was like her coming round my house, you know, to teach me. But around that time, he used to, you know, I wasn't a theory person at all. I'm no good with theory whatsoever. So music and theory. So I used to just, you know, he taught me where the major notes were, and that's all I needed to know. And the rest I worked it out myself, you know. Yeah.
I'd like to ask you a bit of advice, all right? You're very good with advice. So for someone starting out with a guitar, and when I mean someone, I'm talking about myself, right?
Yeah.
It's something that I've tried. I've got the guitar in the spare room, and now and then I'll pick it up and think, I can do this. And I start playing a bit and I think, oh, fucking well, I can't. I stick to the magic. But what advice would you give me?
Stick at it. Just keep doing it. And find a tune that you love to, you know, whether you want to hear a fucking Jam song or an Oasis song or whatever. Find a song you love and you want to emulate, and then pick the guitar up and find out the chords for it. But just do it like that. Otherwise, if you're going to try something that's too difficult for you, you know, try some of the early Beatles stuff. Can't Buy Me Love. You know, I'm into that. I'm having a Beatles phase at the moment. I've done for about the last 6 weeks.
Brilliant.
Unbelievable. You know, I'm listening to the Let It Be recordings and all the demos and the outtakes, and I am so into all that. And funnily enough, when we were in the studio doing Smash the Clock, the Butterfly Effect, the last album, I remember going on the way there to Brighton and listening to Across the Universe, and I was just completely blown away. And I remember going in the studio and Bruce come down the stairs as I went in, and I've just pushed past him. I went, hang on, I can't talk a minute. I've got to grab, and I grabbed the guitar and I picked up and then there's a particular track on the album, but you've got to listen to the album to hear where I sort of ripped it off, really, where I ripped off what I was hearing, and I just went in and played it, especially what George Harrison, what he was doing with a wah-wah pedal. And yeah, so I'm very Beatles inspired at the moment. But look, go and get yourself a track, listen to a track, and just keep at it.
I've been listening to a lot of like Noel's acoustic stuff, when it's just him on his own. And again, I'm getting a little bit of it, Russell, but it's then like, I don't know. I think, as you said, it's one of them things you just got to stick with it. Similar probably to the magic, you know, just keep practicing as much as I can.
It is, yeah. Yeah, just go for things, you know, the G, C, and D, and then work out listen to some rock and roll, because it's a G, C, and D, or you know, and it's all the simple stuff. You know, people, I think, well, the trouble is that people try and get a bit too clever, or think they can, and it just ain't happening. You know, your fingers won't work like that.
No. Well, that's my next target now.
I'll be testing you. I'll be testing you.
Play a song.
Yeah.
Right. So you've got your guitar, mate. You're practicing, you're listening, and you're learning as much as you can. Do you remember the first time you went out and performed?
Yeah, I do. With a band called Paralysis. Some great old friends of mine. I was with them yesterday, actually. And we're in a band. I was 15 and played their first gig at a youth gathering at Crawley. And it was amazing. And I thought, I'm fucking having this. You know, it was just amazing. Yeah. It was amazing. It was just fantastic from the age of 15. And a lot happened. I was in that band around that period of time, and a lot was happening because it was all that mod revival thing was going on around then. You know, you had Long Tall Shorty, you had the Chords, You had the Purple Arts, you had us, FAB, and we were all on the same sort of circuit really from a very young age, and I was convinced it was all going to happen. But then, you know, you can ask me about it, and I don't mind talking about it. But then the drugs sort of like took over for me. You know, the drugs and the booze. Well, the drugs really, and you know, and it spun me off onto the wrong angle. And it fucked me for a few years, and then I sort of reeled myself back in, and yeah, that's what happened to me. I can't hide that because it's part of my history, you know, so I'm never going to sort of blank over it, and I never do. You know, I've been clean for 26 years now. I've clean this over for 26 years, which is amazing, you know, which enables me to do what I do today, you know.
100%, mate. And just to touch up on that, I weren't going to just bring it up, but I'm glad you have. I'm on my journey, as you know, and the people who are around me, you've been just one of the biggest helps. So I mean, I've thanked you many times on the phone, but I think it's nice that I've done it on the podcast as well, because you know, you were like a little shoulder when I needed something. You know, you put your arm around me when I needed. So and you gave me some life-changing advice, and that's why now I'm able to speak to you, and I'm 14 months it'll be soon sober. So.
Well done, Ben. That's fucking great. That is. I love it. You know, I get excited when I talk about it. You know, because I, for one, you know I do, but I, for one, used to think, God, I never trust anyone that doesn't take drugs or drink. You know. Yeah. And then it turned on me and bit me, you know, and it stopped working for me, you know, and because of the amount I was consuming, really. And I wouldn't be able to do what I do today, you know. When I speak to Bruce, and Bruce talks about it, and he you know, because he didn't know me in those days, and of course he didn't, you know, when we were doing all that, when I was at it, you know, and I didn't start out to be a junkie.
Yeah, who does?
I didn't start out. I thought I was out for a ride, you know, I was out for a party. And I thought it went hand in hand, to be honest, and well, it did in my life. Mm. But then there was people around me that were, you know, people in bands that used to say to me, "You want to knock it on the head, you want to ease back a bit, you know." But I didn't know. I thought, fuck that. You know? How do you ease back? No idea.
I mean, that's similar to I know I've told you the story of when I went and saw Miles Payne at Concord 2, and then Paul Weller was there, and then I met Paul at the back, and we were chatting and talking, and I was just off my nut, and he went, "I think you need to ease back off it." I mean, I should have stopped there, to be honest, but like, we think we know better, don't we?
Yeah. It's your journey. You ain't going to stop until you're ready anyway, are you?
No, of course not, mate. But again, thank you for that. So I've been sort of browsing some of the comments that have come up, right? And it's all like, talk about the jams. So, okay, Russell, shall we?
Yeah.
What they want, mate?
Fire away. You know, I'm all all ears.
Good man.
Go.
So how did it come around for you, mate? I mean, I know, but let's tell everyone, how did From the Jam happen?
It's the short story. I always give the short story, but it sometimes ends up a long one. But so me and Rick Buckler knew each other from the early thousands, around the 2001, 2002. We met each other at a radio station, actually. And Rick was doing some promo for something, and we got chatting, and we swapped numbers. We went for a coffee. I was a big Jam fan, you know, around that period of time, but also I was, we just got on, you know, and he was, we liked each other, and we had a sort of a good friendship for a good 18 months or so. And then I was around Rick's one day, and he said, "Look, I fancy playing and getting back into playing again." And he said, "I haven't played for like 12 and a half, 13 years. He said, "And you know a lot of the Jam songs. Would you come in the studio with me?" So I said, "Yeah." I said, and he said, "Look, I've actually organised for somewhere at lunchtime for us to go down to the studio, Water Rat Studios in Woking." So we jumped in the car, went down there, booked it. And then the following week we were in there, and I took Dave Moore, great dear old friend of mine who was with me yesterday, who was in the original format of From the Jam on keys and that. And then we went into Water Rat. Rick had a borrowed kit at the time. No, he didn't have a drum kit. He had a borrowed kit that was there from Woking Studios, which coincidentally was across the road from Bruce's old house in Albert Drive in Woking, where Bruce grew up and where the Jam was. Anyway, Rick said we had 4 or 5 songs that we were going to do, so we went in there, and I said, "I'll tell you what, to keep it neutral ground, let's do a song that's not a Jam song, but very closely associated. So we started 1, 2, 3, 4. So Sad About Us by The Who, which Rick knew anyway. So we crashed into that, had a wonderful 3 or 4 hours of playing. And then Rick said, let's do it again next week. So we did it again the following week. And then we spent the next 9 months learning a whole set and then took it out on the road as The Gift. The Gift was out on the road for about a year. Bruce was out, bumped into us at a gig we were all playing, and Bruce was playing in a band called the Casbah Club with Mark Brzezicki on drums. Dear old Mark was a great friend of ours from Big Country. Bruce Watson from Big Country. Simon Townsend from The Who. Bruce Foxton from The Jam. So Bruce said, look, we're all on the same bill. Why don't I jump up tomorrow night in Guildford and play a couple of tunes? So I thought, oh, fucking great. And Rick went, yeah, let's do it. What do you want to do? So he said, well, why don't we do Smithers Jones and down in the tube station? So that's what happened the next night. And it went fucking nuts. It all got leaked out and the press leaked hold of it and went mad. And then 2 days later, we all had a meeting, no management at all, just 4 people on a bench in the other side of Guildford. Yeah, the other side of Guildford. Just I know what the place is called, the Wayside or something like that. Anyway, we had a meeting there. Said, "Do you fancy continue this on? Should we do something more about this?" And we went, "Yeah, let's do it." So I contacted a load of people that we were a hot potato at the time. No one wanted to touch us. They thought the idea was great, but in them days, it weren't really done that going out on the road without original members and original singers and stuff like that, for obvious reasons at the time. And then anyway, a company in America, one of the biggest companies, which was the agency group, got hold of us and said, look, how do you fancy we'll put a UK tour together? So that's what happened. And then they put an American tour together after that, and then the rest is history. That's how it started.
That's mental, mate. That has got to be, for you, I mean, as we know, both of us massive Jam fans,
Yeah.
that has got to be the dream, hasn't it? To go up there and be playing with the original members.
Yeah.
You got Bruce, you got Rick. That has got to be incredible, mate. I can't even begin to imagine.
Yeah, it's mind blowing. I remember coming home at night and then I was on the fucking 10 o'clock news on the dongs. I made the dongs, all for good. I wasn't been banged up and I wasn't been arrested or anymore. It wasn't for that. It was for the dongs. It really was. That if you go back in time, it was in 2000 and early 2007. And so we made the BBC 10 o'clock news.
Brilliant.
It went dong, and that's what, I was really sort of mind blown about that. And then it was just one great big fun ride, all the way we went across America, all across Japan, Australia. We had a lot of fun together. A lot of fun, and there's lots of stories. Me and Rick and Bruce in a yellow cab in Sears Tower in Chicago, and on Bondi Beach together, and up the Empire State Building in New York, and just things like that. My memory bank's full of them all, and it was a great experience. And we all had a lot of mutual respect. There was never anything, there was never any hierarchy or anything like that. There was never any, oh, I'm Bruce and I'm Rick, from the Jam, and there was none of that bollocks. Do you know what I mean? It was all, we were friends. That's how it was. That's why it worked, for such a period of time. And then Rick decided that he wanted to go off and do his own thing anyway, which he did. And then Mark Brzezicki from Big Country stepped in for 5 years. And then we got the wonderful Mikey Randon, who's with us today, who's he's a fantastic drummer. Great guy, and it just evolved. The thing evolved over a period of time. That was what was nice about it,
And some of the venues and the places you've been playing, mate, are incredible. I mean, I've seen you. No, I can't remember. I've lost count how many times I've seen you, mate. And most recently saw you in Belfast at the Limelight, and probably the first time I've seen you sober. To be honest, mate, it was the best fun I've ever had. But it's just like the crowds you pull in, it just proves that great music will never die. Do you know what I mean? There's a packed night all the time and people are just loving every moment. And for me, it's the closest thing I'm going to be to seeing the Jam live, because I hear
that said a lot, but there's no intention there, you know, and I mean that. There's never been any intention for me to go out and fucking be, you know, oh, I've got to sound like Paul and all this, you know. I guess it's just lucky I don't sound like Barry Gibb. Do you know what I mean? That's true, you know, because it's my own voice. It's the voice that I've got. And, you know, it's quite fucking weird because when I wrote the last 3 albums, you know, Smash the Clock, Back in the Room and the Butterfly Effect, you know, people said, oh, it's nice to hear Russell with his own voice. I thought, fuck off. I've always got my own voice. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? I mean, they were probably being nice about it because they probably didn't quite get it that, you know, we come from the same area. You come from the same area as us. We've got an accent the way we sing or talk or whatever, I guess. So that's about the only similarity that I can see between me and Paul. And it's quite interesting because Paul said to me about when he first heard some of the demos of the new album and that, when we were up at Paul's studio, he went, fucking hell, Russ. He said, I thought that was Bruce singing. So, you know, I guess it's all in the beholder's fucking ears, really.
100%, mate. Yeah. But just keep doing it because, I mean, you don't need me to tell you that, but I fucking love watching you live, mate. Right. Have you got a favourite venue, though?
Not... yeah, they all change all the time. I mean, I love loads of them. You know, there's Rock City in Nottingham is great. Great venue. It just is, you know, the sight lines are great. The crowds are always great there. The venues run brilliantly there. You only have to do your history on who runs it. You know, it's just fucking great. And then I do love, of course, I love the Barrowlands in Glasgow. You know, I love that. I loved out in New York, Gramercy Theatre in New York. That was pretty special. Sydney was great. You know, I mean, it could go on, you know, but there's some wonderful venues. So to play the Brighton Centre was a bit special as well. You know, that was pretty good.
Every time I ask this question, there's one name that always comes up, and that's the Barrowlands. And for me, I mean, I remember when I was on the tour with the Brian Jonestown Massacre, and I remember messaging you at some of the venues and saying we've played here, and you were like, I've played here, and I was thinking, fucking hell, I'm going to get one over him in a minute. You know what I mean? And I remember saying the Barrowlands, you're like, yeah, been there, and I was like, fuck's sake. Yeah. Some of the venues are like that one. There's something about that. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just the history of. Like some of the names who have played there, it's mind-blowing. Like if you think about it, if I was to think about it before I went on the stage, I wouldn't have done it. Do you know what I mean? Because it was scared. But it is such an iconic venue, mate.
It is. It's
so iconic.
Yeah, it's incredible. And where it's situated is as well, you know, and they've never done the dressing rooms up, which is brilliant. You know, the little yellow stars are still on the wall in there. You know, everybody goes in there and it's just so recognisable, you know. And, yeah, I love it. I love going there. I love playing, you know, I love playing in Scotland. I do love playing in Scotland. I think it's something to do with some of my old heritage, family heritage. But, you know, I love playing there. I love playing all around the place, really. Anywhere that receives us well is a great gig, you know.
100%, mate. I hear you there. Now, in Belfast, you played a song that you don't often hear many people playing it, and it was Life from a Window by the Jam. And I think that's probably in my top 5 songs by the Jam. But for some people, that like I remember having a few chats with people saying, you heard this one, they're like, no. I'm thinking, it's fucking criminal you ain't heard it. It's a very underrated tune, would you say?
Oh, totally. Yeah, absolutely, you know. And I have got that story when I was walking with Bruce across London. I think we played in Dublin and then we flew into London the following day, and then we were walking back from soundcheck. And Bruce said, there's the post office tower there, because it was near the old band's accountants. And that's how we came up talking about Life from a Window. And he went, why don't we do it? I went, it's a fucking great track.
Brilliant.
You know, it's a standout track for me apart on the Modern World album. And it just provokes a lot of memories for me from that 78 time, you know, around that period, late 77, 78 time, you know, of hearing it. And, you know, London traffic as well, things like that. But Life from a Window is, I just think the way it's put together is just pure magic, really. And people really used to think, people talk about Paul's writing, and I can see him, because I spoke to Paul about this, a lot of that stuff. you know, his writing, he was not complicated, and he never thought too much. I went to people, I used to say to people, I still do, I say, don't forget, Paul was only sort of 19 years of age. He had no, you know, didn't have 30, 40 years of experience behind him. So he was quite a genius at a young age for writing a lot of that stuff. You know, it just fell naturally for him, you know. And I like that, the way the songwriting was so simple in those days as well. I learned a lot from his writing, you know. I think Paul was one of the magic people. I'm going to talk about the magic chord, and Paul finds it, and so does Glenn Tilbrook from Squeeze, and so does McCartney. And they find that chord, that where it goes off, like if you want to call it the middle eight, the bit that everybody says, oh, I love this bit coming up, oh, I love this bit, that's the bit you got to look for. And Paul's the master at that. You know, it's when he goes off like on Head Start, and, you know, certain tracks that he plays. You know, I just think he's great at finding the magic chord that laces it all together, in my opinion anyway.
100%. I'm sure a lot of people would agree with you there, mate. Definitely. You mentioned there a band, The Squeeze, right? One of my favourite tunes ever, Up the Junction.
Yeah.
I play it probably religiously every day.
Yeah.
The lyrics, especially the one at the end, do you know what I mean? When it's all pretty much gone, basically. What a tune that is, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is brilliant. You know, I'm lucky. I do know Chris as well, Chris Difford, and because he used to have a studio called Heliocentric. I didn't know whether you know that. You know, that's where the name Heliocentric came from. And you know, Chris was around that period of time. In fact, he's one of us, really. Sort of, you won't mind me saying that. You know, he's followed quite a sober life for many years now, and he's really was one of the great songwriters and lyricists out there. You know, him and Glenn, you know, together are a power pack, mate. They're, you know, forced to be reckoned with. You know, I really rate them, those two, like Lennon and McCartney. Really, 100%. You know, sacrilege, but yeah,
brilliant, man. 100%. Now, away from the jam now, I want to talk about, you mentioned it briefly at the beginning, you and Bruce have brought out some of your own music, and you often play it in your gigs, and it's so well received as well. And I mean, I've got the albums, and I think they're brilliant, mate, especially the last one you've done.
Yeah, Butterfly Effect, I'm really proud of that one. I'm really proud of them all, really, because, you know, they're all they all mean a lot to me. But the Butterfly Effect came about much more naturally than anything else. You know, I wasn't trying. I'll tell you why. It was the only album that we didn't record at Paul's at Black Barn, and we recorded it down in the studio in Brighton at the Levelers studio. It was their own studio.
Yeah.
Metway Studios. And the old producer, Al Scott, I bumped into Al Scott, who's a lovely guy who sort of comes out of the Rack Studios days, from sort of 78, 79 through, you know, Mickey Most, who's a very famous sort of rock and roll guy years ago. And he came out of that sort of era, and I got chatting with him and said, look, Al, are you up for doing some production on some new work? And he went, yeah, just give me a call. So around that time, COVID was around, and Vic Coppersmith Heaven, you know, the Jams producer, was up for doing the production on it and producing the whole album. But Vic, being a little bit more elderly, and he was worried about COVID, and he wanted the studios to be air conditioned, and we were sort of pushing against budgets, really. So we went back to Al Scott, and Al said, look, come and do it at Metway Studios in Brighton. And I just think the atmosphere in there was just magical, because it was just dead peaceful and quiet. Al Scott was very easy to work with. Mark Brzezicki came in with me and Bruce in the early days of that album. And then Mike came in, drummer now, and came in and did a few tracks. But it was all really, most of it was pretty much written before we took it in there. Lula I wrote in the kitchen here. But there's a track called Too Old to Cry, Too Young to Die, which Vic Smith really liked. And he wanted to, but then when he's heard it now, he said, I don't think I can do anything more with it. You know, I don't think I could have done a better job with it, which is nice to hear, you know. But yeah, we love that stuff. And I'm really proud of it. You know, I'm really proud of what because it was important that to put out stuff and to write, you know, some good stuff. I didn't want to write stuff that sounded. People have said some really strange things, and it's strange to me. And they say, oh, it sounds like the missing track off Sound Effects. I'm like, fucking hell, how can you say that? I just cannot even envisage where that comes from, you know, because there's no trying with that album whatsoever, all the tracks, or we're not trying to make a sound or trying to be like anybody. You know, it's just a culmination of a big pot of musical taste of over the years, you know. And yeah, I think there's some great songs on there.
I would agree with you, mate. And Lula's getting a hell of a lot of love in the comments here. So I think that's everyone's favourite song. Have you got go on.
I was just saying, you know, I was watching I sort of don't want to sort of release the cat out of the bag on that one, but I was watching a series called This Is Us when I wrote that. And it's that big American thing that a lot of people got into about two years ago. And there was a Labby Sifri track that that was from the 70s that they played on the TV series. And the following day, it must have been a couple of days later, I'm in the kitchen and I just remember hearing it and thinking, and it was also that track from Something in the Air, and it was just a chord structure, and I heard it and went with it, and I kept playing it, and my wife Kim was making dinner, and I'm playing it, and she stopped what she's doing, and usually she'd tell me to fuck off because I'm annoying her, but and she went, I really like that, I really love it, what is it? And I went, oh, it's just a new thing I'm working on, really. So then I stuck down some lyrics the next day to it, and then captured it and found the magic chord for it, and it sort of fell into place, really. It all happened pretty quickly, that one. But it's a nice pop tune, and then of course the sax breaks on it with Tony Rico Richardson from various different places, but from Bad Manners, namely, and yeah, guitar pop, and what's it, the Death of Guitar Pop, and those boys, he played with them a lot. But he came in and during COVID days, you know, and we wrote the whole track. You know, it was loving it. I loved it. I thought it was a great track.
Brilliant, mate, brilliant. Have you got an album that you would say is the album to your life? Is there one that you play religiously every week?
There isn't, but, well, I mean, I'm lying when I say that, really. There's a few. And I had one on this morning. I had Nevermind the Bollocks on this morning. And I put Bodies on as well. And it's probably one of my favourite tracks because it just gets me going. You know, Bodies is just so ahead of its time. You know, the whole Pistols album is still, you know, I'll tell you what, I voiced it on the phone this morning. I said, you know, play Anarchy in the UK. And it come up with Megadeth's version. Oh. I thought, fuck this, and it was in the car. But it was mind-blowing. You got to hear it. You know, anybody out there, go and listen to Megadeth's version of Anarchy in the UK. The bottom end in it blows the doors off the car. Oh. And the kick drum in it, honestly, I'm coming up the road with Megadeth, Anarchy in the UK in the car. And, you know, and also, it's not a secret, but I'm into boating, and I do like riling people up, really. And I'm coming out of Cowes a little while ago, which is like the mecca of the yachting world, you know. And I'm not into yachts, I'm into motorboats. And I had frigging in the rigging, and I thought, fucking, I'm having that. And so I put frigging in the rigging, and I'm blasting it out as I'm coming right out past Royal Cowes Yacht Club, thinking, yeah, there's still a you know, I've still got it in me, you know, to be a little bit controversial, you know. Although I try to have a quiet life today, you know, for most things, but I can still get poked with a stick sometimes by authority, you know, and it really riles me. I can't help it. It's just the way I am.
It's just the way we are, mate, eh? So obviously you mentioned a bit about your boating and that, but another thing that I know you love as a hobby is golf. You're a very keen golfer, mate. I mean,
yeah, I am. Fucking love it. I've just got a group of friends that we go out and it's a very level playing field with golf, as everybody knows who's into golf. And it's great fun. I do it when I'm on holiday in the winter. But yeah, it's a great leveler, because if you think you're good, there's a great footballer, well-known footballer, who's a really good friend of mine, one of the England players from old, and I keep he's a great player, football player, and a great manager.
Right.
But I keep getting him to try and play golf with me, and he does play a little bit of golf, but he just loses balls continuously. He says, what's annoying about when you're really good at something, people expect you to be great at everything.
Yeah.
You know? And if you're good at one thing, I said, don't worry about that, because I don't worry about that. You know, I'm a half decent. I'm off 18, which to anyone out there knows that.
Yeah.
You know, that's like you can get round a golf course. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's fresh air. Like I had my heart attack last year, which you know, came out of the blue really. And so I've been doing things like trying to keep fit again. Lost a bit of weight. Not that I had loads on anyway, but just getting fit. Got a bit serious about it, you know, because I thought, fuck, I wanted to live more. I wanted more of life, you know, and I didn't want to die.
It sort of puts everything into perspective, though, doesn't it? And it's sort of
really
like it's a big wake-up call.
Yeah, it was a massive one for me. I've never forgotten being in the ambulance, you know, and been on the way to into the cardiac theatre where they put the stents in. And honestly, I really did not have me down for one of those people as a heart attack. Yeah, stress. Yeah, I'll get a lot of stress in that, but. Yeah, anyway, it happened and I'm all fixed now, so I'm good.
And that's the main thing. And you're looking well, mate. You really are.
Top man.
So I've got a couple more questions, Russell, and that's it.
You fire away. I'm up. I like questions. I like good ones.
Yeah. What do you mean? With the rest shit so far? Is that
no, right? No, it's like, I like
Sam,
fucking go for the jugular. I don't mind. I'm up for it.
Looking back on your... In fact, no. If you weren't in the music industry, what do you think you would be doing, mate?
Property development.
Yeah?
Yeah. I've done quite a few properties over the years, and in the old days, and I'm good, you know, good with carpentry and love doing things up. I love going round into wrecks and doing them up and knocking them out and moving on. That's what I love doing. And that's, in fact, what I was going to be doing 25 years ago. I was on the verge. I was doing it anyway. And then I veered off it.
I didn't know that, man. That's fucking brilliant.
In fact, I've been tiling this afternoon in one of my bathrooms.
I belled you earlier and you were picking up the tiles, weren't you?
Yeah. In fact, Ray from Ocean Colour Scene phoned me this morning and I couldn't pick the phone up. The bass player, Ray, the new bass player, had been there 10 years. Couldn't pick the phone up to him because I was fucking underneath the sink.
Mate, you're always doing something. Like, I call you, like,
no.
Can't speak to you now, I'm just jet washing the driveway or something like that. I'm just painting my boat.
I tell you, I know, but then I'm like that in the summer, but come the winter, I'm like Netflixed up and on the sofa in front of the fire. So I fucking hate the winter, I've got to be honest, I hate it.
I don't mind it, man, because I like fucking putting on a load of layers and having it.
Yeah, no, I suppose I'm all right once I've got into it, come around January, but it takes me a while to get into that sort of way of thought, you know.
Definitely, man. So looking back over your career, Russell, are you proud of what you've achieved?
Beyond belief, yeah, absolutely. I'm proud that I'm proud of everything, really. I'm proud of everything. I'm proud of you know, that we didn't destroy the legacy of something that I held very close to me as well. You know, because when this was all started off many years ago, both Bruce, Rick and myself thought long and hard about what the legacy of it all meant. And, you know, some people it's going to rile them, but fuck them. Do you know what I mean? I'm not there to please everybody, and I can't, you know, can't do that. And there was a lot of people that get extremely happy, you know, to watch grown men fucking cry when you play songs is something sort of it's quite weird about it, really. But I mean, it means that you've touched them, and you by being involved with what you're doing, you know. And I for one was a massive fan. I was a fan early on. And so I understood exactly what it meant, you know. And all these people out there, or whether that, I mean, I don't pay much attention to social media these days. I don't do Facebook. I mean, I do a bit of Instagram, but that's how you got me on here tonight. But that's it, you know. And Bruce said to me years ago, when I was going to hit the delete button on Facebook, he said to me, "Look, man," he said, if these people know you so well, they'll just ring you. He said, and if they haven't got your number, then they're not, then they don't know you that well, do they? And I went, yeah, good point. And I just hit the delete button on that. But I'm really proud of all of it. You know, I'm proud of that it means so much to a lot of people, and that people thank me. And I never tire of people saying thank you, because, you know, and they go out of their way and they stop you in the street and say, you know, I really like what you're doing, and that means a lot. It does mean a lot, because we all have insecurities. You know, we wake up sometimes, you know, and I've spoke to Paul about this. You know, Paul can be like that. You know, and it was nice to see that human side of Paul, and it was nice to see the side. You know, I was lucky enough to be with Ringo Starr back in, sorry to name drop and that, but back in the 90s, you know, and around the studio with him, and you know, he's got insecurities as well musically. You know, you're talking about a fucking Beatle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I know this of George Harrison as well. I'm good friends with other people that are friends with George and that. And I know that George was very like that, you know, a very humble person. And I think humility, if you can get some humility into your life, which is what I'm always trying to do, I'm always conscious of that. Because when you come out, there's a persona on stage that you have, you know, that really, that humility and they don't really go hand in hand, you know. Because you can't come out one night on stage and say, look, go easy on me, everybody, I'm a little bit shy tonight, you know,
live.
And when we wake up in the morning, some mornings I just want to be a wallflower and disappear, you know. Not every day do I want to be fucking up for doing a gig, you know. But it seems we used to be doing them every day of our lives many years ago, but we've eased back on that now. But yeah, proud of it all, really, Ben. You know, I'm proud of all the people and the friends that I've made over the years as well. You know, met some lovely people, you included. Met some fantastic people all around the world. You know, beautiful.
No, love that, mate. And just want to touch up, you know, talking about the Jam. It plays such a big part on people's lives, that band. You know, when I go and see the crowd at your gigs, like, you can just see that it's like they've gone back in time, if you don't mind me saying, and it's like they're reliving their childhood again, or when they were there in their teens watching the Jam. And especially for me watching it, I can't get enough. They are my favourite band. The Jam always been my favourite band. My favourite album, Setting Sun. Second favourite album, The Gift. And people say, well, you can't have two favourite albums from, you know, you fucking can, trust me. And guess what the third one is? Sound Effect. So that's free. Yeah. But I just think, you know, when you meet someone who is such a big band, they've got such a big passion for the Jam, it's like you already know them. You know, you can talk about everything to them, and that's what I do love about social media as well, is when I tweet what song I'm listening to, especially, it's normally always a Jam one or something, and the love, and then it just gets people talking about it and talking about, oh, I remember seeing them back in, you know, 79 and all this, and, you know, I was at the last gig in 82, and fuck, it's brilliant, mate. It's like a way of life, you know. People say mod is a way of life. It is, you know, but the Jam played such a big part on people's lives, mate.
Oh, I hear it wherever I've gone, you know, whether it's been in London, Glasgow, Edinburgh, Newcastle, Sydney, you know, Chicago, New York, wherever. And people have said that, you know, and it played a massive part. It was funny taking it to America and being out in sort of, I call it redneck country, really. And then out by the fucking stage doors, there were people there with, like, the Modern World album for people to sign it, you know. And
fucking mental.
And you know, these are like I call them Tammy Wynette clubs, because it was the sort of area that Tammy Wynette, you know, these clubs in America that we played, you know, my memory of it, it's a little bit faded on some of them. But when you go out to some of that and you see the passion on their faces, you know, and it was great in New York as well. We played in Los Angeles, and Clem Burke came, and somebody introduced me to Clem afterwards from Blondie. And then about a month later, we ended up in New York, playing New York, and he brought Debbie Harry with him, which I was, like, amazingly blown away, because Debbie was there and Clem were there in New York, and it was all sold out at the Gramercy Theatre, and, you know, and I had a job to go and do, you know, which was go out and be a front man of it, you know. But I've never gone out to try and steal anything, like any light from it at all. You know, I've never gone out to try and be bigger than. You know, just originally I was just a cog in a machine, in the wheel. You know, a big cog,
Yeah.
to enable it to happen. You know, and I was riding it for the thrill, and then it's sort of it's gone off into another tangent now for me. You know, it really has. So. I don't think of that's the thing, I don't actually think when I'm on stage. I just go out, I just play the songs, and that's it really. And I do, you know, I do listen to what people say at gigs. I like to hear what they say, you know. Invariably it's pretty good. It's nice that they say that. You know, my friendship with Bruce as well, you know, me and Bruce have been really close friends for many years. And, you know, and I love Bruce dearly. He's one of my closest friends. And we've been through a lot together. And Bruce won't mind me saying, you know, we went through some difficult times around that 2009 period when he lost his wife, you know, and I was close with him. And that was a very difficult period of time to go through. And there was a lot happening with the band and a lot happening with the business side of it, you know, and we were taking a caning from the press and, you know, we just battened down the hatches and just sort of fought through it all, really. So we did go through an extremely difficult time around that, and that's when Rick left around that period. And so me and Bruce, we just got closer and closer together, and we sort of, we grew together, you know. And to be in the studio with me, Bruce, and Paul was fantastic, because I saw Paul's love for Bruce as well. You know, and I was, I've got some memories about being headphones on playing, and Paul gave me his guitar, his old Casino actually, to play a couple of overdubs. And so I'm in, that's why I remember this particularly. So I'm in there with headphones on, Paul's old Casino on his old 66 Casino. And I'm looking through at Bruce and Paul chatting, and I'm thinking, I wonder what they're fucking talking about, because they're looking at me and talking, right? Which was a weird experience, you know. So then when I've come out, I didn't say to Bruce straight away. I said to him after about 15 minutes, I went, here, what were you two talking about? He went, it was quite funny, really. He says, Paul said you reminded him of Steve Brooks a lot. I went, oh, really? I went, oh, so okay, cool. I'll go with that. You know, I thought they were slacking me off. But it was funny, though, you know, because being around that, you know, being in the studio with Paul, because Paul's very at home, and we were at the studio there for a long time. So, you know, Paul used to come in a lot and ask how it was going and come in with the family. And, you know, it's Paul's home, and he's very good around that area. You know, he's very, and I've always found Paul, I'll talk about it now, you know, I've always found Paul a very nice person. Very, yeah, he's a nice person.
He is, mate. He's one of the good guys. You know, I've spent, similar to yourself, I've spent many times hours in the studio with him, and I'm not a musician, I'm a magician, you know. So for him to let me into his place of work,
yeah.
You know, it just proves how much love and respect he's got in me to be there, and then to end up on Sunset, I ended up on that album as well. I'm sure I told you, he got me on Old Father Time doing the clapping. I mean, for me, that is a dream come true. To say I'm in my Heroes album, not only that, it went #1 as well. So I'm in the #1 album, eh?
Yeah, good for you, Ben. I like all that stuff, man. It's when Paul played piano on #6, which is another great song that it was about an old house that I owned. I'd done it up, actually. I did the house up when my kids were growing up. And so that song's at #6 was #6 Rife Way in Bognor Regis. And Paul played piano on it. So Paul said to me, oh, show me the chords to it. So we went in, and I sat at the piano with Paul to show him the chords for it. And he went, okay, A minor, B minor. Yeah, okay, right, I got it. Right, let me run with it. So I ran back out, and he's playing it. And that's the live take. I think it was only like two takes on that. So it's Paul on the piano solo on that. And he really did add colour to the album. And he also played on about 7 tracks with us, which is great.
Unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah, it's brilliant. And Wilco Johnson, I did a track as well, and Wilco came in not long after his operation, and that's how I met Alan McGee. Alan brought him down, and Wilco came in, and it was great. Wilco picked up the Telecaster and fucking away he went, you know. And these are all big heroes of mine, man. You know, big heroes. You know, they're musical legends.
Of course, man. The circles we know, as you know yourself, everyone sort of knows everyone. All the good people seem to know all the good people. You know what I mean? I mean, you mentioned another guy there, Alan McGee. You know, I mean, you know, I do a lot of Q&As with him, and we always talk about the story. You go, someone says, "Do you want to go and meet Russell?" And he was like, "Oh, I don't think I'm going to like him because, you know, I love the fucking jam." He always said it. He goes, "I don't know." And he said he met you. He said, "You know what? I was so wrong. I fucking love the guy." And it's a great story.
He's a lovely fellow. I got a lot of time for him, and he is just one of the nice guys, you know. And another quick story about that. Me and Bruce ended up staying around his house in Wales, and he met us from the train station. I think it was, met us from the train station. And as we go into the house, we're walking up the steps of his house in Wales, which is let's just say it's not a little small house. It's got a big house in the country, a very big house in the country. And he says, "Stop there, turn round, Bruce." And Bruce turns around with his bag. Alan's actually got one of his bags. He went, "You see all that out there? And there's all these like tumbling hills, right, sprawling across the Welsh Downs or whatever you want to call them." And he said, "I owe all that to you." He said, "Because I came to see the jam in like I think it was Glasgow Apollo or something like that." He said, "And it changed my life." He said, "And that was it." He said, "So I owe everything to you."
Brilliant.
But yeah, I got a lot of time for Alan McGee. You know, he is a lovely man. He's you know, he's responsible for so much, and people like him. You know what I like about him? He's like a really nice version of Malcolm McLaren. You know, and I think he's a bit of a hero. He likes McLaren. You know what he was about. You know, as far as the manager was concerned. But yeah, he's a great, nice version of Malcolm McLaren. That's how I think I like him too.
Great guy, man. Great guy. I mean, like, all good things have to come to an end, you know, Russell. And I'm afraid to say we're coming to the end of this, brother.
I've really enjoyed chatting with you, man.
Loved it, man. The thing for us, as we said before, we could talk for hours, mate. Whether it's for a podcast or just just me and you in a room. Me and you can talk for absolutely hours, and we normally do. But what's the next 12 months like for you, mate?
We've got festivals which we finish in 2 weeks' time, and then we've got 6 weeks off, and then we start the Ormod Cons tour with the Skids are out on the road with us, which would be great because I love Richard Jobson, who was actually in the movie with Alan McGee's movie of it was called Alan
Creation Stories, wasn't it?
Creation Stories. Thank you very much. Yeah. So Jobson played Alan McGee's dad in the movie.
Yes.
Richard's out with us on the road from October the 6th, and it goes right the way round through till April time next year. So, brilliant. And then actually in March we fly off to Dubai in March. Do a festival in Dubai, excuse me, and then we go straight down to New Zealand and do the power station in New Zealand, then fly into Sydney and then across Australia and back home.
Brilliant, mate. If you ever need a magician as a support act,
absolutely. Funny, I was with a magician yesterday in the sea off the Isle of Wight. We were out swimming. It was a friend of mine's 60th, and we were out for a birthday Beano on a day out, and he's a good magician as well. And I mentioned you, and he went, "Who the fuck's he? Who the fuck's the magic mod?" Exactly right. That's what the t-shirts are all about. No, he knew all about you. Top man, Russell. You know, I always love talking to you. And you too, Ben. Hope the feeling's the same, mate. We always have a great chat. It really is. Yeah. Good man. So I'm going to leave it as that because I think we've given the people what they want. We've had some great stories there, and I've really enjoyed it. And I think this has been a great one, you know, especially being the number 10 episode. You know, you've been a fantastic guest, Russell, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart, mate. Thank you so much, Ben. Lovely. Cheers, mate. Lots of love, and we'll speak to you soon. You will do. You have a lovely evening. I'll speak to you soon. You too, man. Nice one. Take care, man. Cheers, Ben. Bye, mate.
Thank you.
Wow, that was brilliant. Absolutely loved that. And I couldn't have asked for a better guest for hitting the milestone of 10 episodes. I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I did. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Talking to Mod.